Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of The Bend. My name is Debbie Boone, and I am a practice management consultant and the host of this podcast and podcast. Today, I am absolutely thrilled to have Dr. Quincy Hawley with me. Read some of his stuff, then I stalked him a little bit at BMX and told him I was going to meet him in person, and he didn't believe me, but I found him and we met. But I'm really super excited to tell you about some of the stuff that he's doing and to let him tell us about his really cool platform for educating veterinarians. So Quincy, I'm going to give it the brief bio and then we're going to jump right into this talk. So Dr. Hawley is a 2013 graduate of NC State's College of Veterinary Medicine. Go Pack! I can't ever do that right. So I'm a Pack graduate too.
Pack Pride.
But we
yes.
we just do that when I was there. He has 9 years of experience in small animal practice, full service and relief. After overcoming his own battle with burnout, he co-founded GetMotiveted, a company that provides well-being solutions for veterinary professionals and organizations. He's a well-being writer, speaker, coach, and course creator. He's also one of the co-creators of GetMotiveted University, the world's first school of well-being specifically for veterinary professionals, and home to the Veterinary Burnout Prep certification program. He believes that well-being education is the key to living a burnout-free life of personal and professional well-being. Through GetMotiveted, Dr. Hawley and the GetMotiveted team aim to make burnout a thing of the past for the entire global veterinary community. Yay!
Woohoo!
Thank
you for that.
Welcome.
You said that was short, Debbie. That was like too long.
It is. It is hard to hear your own bio. And, as a speaker, you get up there and people, and I go, don't read all that stuff. I've been doing this since 1985 and my bio is nonsense. It is so long.
Yes.
Because I've been doing so much. So anyway, but, you try to shorten it down. You try to get the good meat of it in there. And then,
that's right.
The fun part is talking about it anyway. So
of course,
we're going to jump in and talk about some cool stuff today. Thanks so much for taking a break from practice, and because you're still practicing, right? You're still working.
Yeah, still practicing. On Saturday in a couple of days, I'll wake up at 4:30 and drive 2 hours to do an amazing relief job that I love. It's a really busy clinic, busy day, but it'll be fun here in North Carolina. So.
Well, spring has sprung, so it is better to ride around in the spring.
Yes, absolutely.
In the middle of the winter, even though it's not too bad where we live. I'm in South Carolina, but I lived in Greensboro, North Carolina for many years.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a Carolina girl and grew up like right down the road from NC State.
Nice.
So Quincy, were you one of those people who always wanted to be a veterinarian? Was that your goal in life as a kid?
Maybe. I think it was always in the cards for me. My dad and brother, they were big rabbit hunters. And so I've had dogs literally since the day I was born, a bunch of beagles. I was born into a family of like 20 beagles. And so living out in the country here in Oxford, North Carolina, a really small town, we had about 6 acres and lots of woods surrounding our property and our house. So we would see like baby ducks and deer, rabbits, foxes running across the yard, you name it, from crayfish in the little creek to snapping turtles. I mean, just anything was a possibility in North Carolina. So I just had this natural inclination to just love animals and seeing all the different cool animals and things like that. But I really didn't get the know-how about veterinary school until I got to undergrad in Greensboro at North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, where I became an animal science major. So
okay, that's my major too, is animal science. It was all I ever wanted to do was to be a veterinarian. And then my mom, I applied to one school, NC State, and she went, "What if you don't get in?" I went, "I'm getting in." I did. But then after 4 years of undergrad, I went, "No, I'm done." But at that time, they were supposed to have built the school and it wasn't there. So it was a fairgrounds and it was a big research farm. So where the school is now, I learned how to drench sheep, freeze brand cows. We had actually a horseback riding class there that I took. And let's see, what else did I do over there? My big thing that I remember most is drenching sheep, because I was foolish. And here's what I did. There was like 100 kids in the class. We all went to the barn to drench the sheep. Well, I never had any sheep experience before. I grew up with cows, horses, and like you. I grew up in the woods, so it was everything.
Right. Yeah.
And I waited until I was the last kid to pick a sheep. Well, if you're smart, you pick the small ones, right? So I weigh like 50 pounds less then than I do now. And I get this monstrous sheep that weighs as much as I do. And I straddle this sheep and I've got that, what is it, copper nitrate in there, and you're trying to drench the sheep and it sits down, knocks me over. I'm blue, sheep's blue.
I'm gosh.
Die box. Just be that way, And so I was done. So that was kind of like my last sheep experience there.
Yeah, sheep are fun though. Sheep are fun. I used to be a food animal when I was in vet school.
Oh yeah.
I was a food animal focused student, so I did a lot with goats, less with sheep, and then some camelids, like llamas, things like that, and then some dairy cow, a little bit of beef cow, a little bit of pig, a little bit of chicken. And then in my 4th year, I came to my senses and went to small animal.
Yeah. Well, I worked with some mixed animal hospitals, and I managed a mixed animal hospital. And I'm telling you, if you're a large animal vet, you just live in the truck in all hours of the night. And, and farmers will call you all kinds of crazy times. Yes. I'll have to tell you my favorite large animal story. When I was working at Reesville Animal Hospital, Dr. Coates was still alive. And at that time, he was close to 90. And he had started the hospital in 1948.
Wow.
And he told this story about getting woken up in the night, a farmer, and he was the neighbor of a farmer who had a down cow, and it was in the winter, and it was 3 o'clock in the morning. So he comes and gets Dr. Coates, and he takes him out to where this down cow is out in the pasture, and the farmer that owns the cows out there. And Dr. Coates says, okay. He said, well, here's what you need to do. He said, he gave him strychnine tablets. And he said, every 30 minutes, you need to come and give this cow a dose of strychnine and a cup of coffee every 30 minutes. And then he left. And so the guy who had picked him up to carry him to the neighbor's house said, Doc, that's kind of rough on that old boy. Had him out there in the woods, 3 o'clock in the morning, dosing that cow every 30 minutes with coffee. Is the cow going to make it? Dr. Coates said, hell no, it's not going to make it. He said, that'll teach him to bring me out here at 3 o'clock or wait till 3 o'clock in the morning to get me out of here.
Oh, God.
That was Dr. Coates. That was veterinary medicine back in the 50s.
That sounds about right. Sounds about right.
Different world. So
that's funny.
Let's talk a little bit about, how life throws you a curveball. So here you are, NC State grad, getting through school. What's the first curveball you got thrown?
Wow. I think first curveball was probably graduating and going into a really, really, really busy practice. Now, mind you, in vet school, I was food animal focused all the way up until my 4th year and basically graduation. So I did, in veterinary school, you're going to get some small animal experience, no matter what your desire, dream, and goal is. And so in the 4th year, you get some of those ER and soft tissue surgery and internal medicine and different things like that. But I decided I was going to do small animals. So going into a really busy small animal practice where I was seeing 25 to 35 cases a day was a little bit more stressful than a new grad probably wanted to be doing and seeing and things like that. And I think the big thing for me is that, and you kind of know the story, like I wasn't prepared for the mental and the emotional stress and I guess trauma, if you will, that can come with working in a really busy practice like that. And I think I always tell the story that within the first 60 days of graduating, I did like an intestinal resection and anastomosis surgery, foreign body surgery on a Doberman that had eaten like a knee-high sock. And I took out 30 inches of intestine and then put it back together. And the dog lived, which is great. But it was just really, really, really stressful for me. And so I believe that stressful part of graduating and going into small animal, when I really had never worked in a small animal hospital before, other than let's just like cleaning cages and, you know, small things like that. And so it was a new experience, but I handled it a little bit, so to speak.
A little bit, so to speak. I'm curious, you know, I've interviewed a ton of new graduate veterinarians in my career. And one of the things that has surprised me most recently in some of the graduates is that they had never worked in a veterinary hospital before they went to vet school. And I thought, gosh, you don't even know what you're getting into. And I think that there is an unreasonable expectation of what it really is like. So do you think that that's one of the things that maybe kind of sets people up for burnout and the kind of the failure and that imposter syndrome is that they kind of go into it blind and then you get into it and you go, well, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a component of it. And, you know, but I do believe though, you're going to come out of veterinary school prepared to do well enough. And if you go into a place where there's no mentorship, maybe where the team isn't as developed and savvy and cohesive, if you will, if you've never been in a veterinary hospital before, then your chances for getting burnt out and hating your job and your life are probably higher than if you like. I actually went into a hospital where I had great mentorship. The team was fantastic and amazing. It was just really busy. And I had zero tools, strategies, tactics, resources, principles, and you know, for coping with that level of work. I believe that now, like today, so I graduated in 2013. I was at the hospital from 2013 to 2016. I believe that I could go back into that same hospital and thrive today. You know, change nothing except for me and my preparedness, and I do okay. That doesn't mean that I would want to be there.
Right.
That just means that I could not
manage,
you know, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, so,
So you're in this practice and, you know, I mean, I can't imagine like walking out of school and all of a sudden you're resecting a bowel. That's really an advanced surgery. But it reminded me of this Doberman that we had in our practice who was chronically eating stuff. She belonged to a gynecologist and he would never believe she'd eaten stuff. And we removed from this dog a rock and resected her bowel, and a corn cob and resected her bowel. And then one of those sponges you wash the car with, the sea sponge, that was the last thing. So she was like the skinniest Doberman because part of her bowel was gone. I mean, we had taken so many inches out of it because she kept eating stuff. And she just needed to live in a muzzle anytime she wasn't monitored.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, you know, thinking about how did you move out of this, oh my God, I'm in insanity here. What was your next move?
Yeah. So basically, and a part of the reason I'm so passionate about GetMotiveted is because of the story and because of the suck that I experienced. And that's even with a great boss and a great team and things of that nature, and doing okay clinically too. In terms of the clinical aspect of the job, is that it got to the point, Debbie, where it was so tough that I would literally just leave work. I would go to the first gas station I would see on the way home. I get an alcoholic beverage, pour it in a cup, and I would drink and drive on the way home. And I would smoke like a Black and Mild on the way home. And you know, I'm obviously not very proud of that, but that's a part of the story. That's how I was coping back then, because I didn't know of any other healthy ways. And it got to the point where I would get home and I would have another car there. And in the trunk of that car, there would be more alcohol. And I would take a couple of shots before I went into the house to face my family. Got to the point where I was even having suicidal ideation at one point there. And my wife and I were thinking about divorce. And I really felt like I was living a subpar life of mediocrity, where I was resentful of my career choice and just unsure about life in and of itself. And it's the type of feeling where you get in it and you kind of feel it doesn't feel right. And that's the big thing that I hope that people sort of latch on to, is that, like, if life doesn't feel good, if your veterinary career doesn't feel good, then there's probably more that you could have. And there's probably something that you don't know or understand about life and or veterinary medicine as it relates to that mental aspect, that well-being aspect. And to actually find hope in that. So if things don't feel good, then that's kind of a good sign. That's life in veterinary medicine trying to wake you up. And for me, it was the day after the 2016 presidential election, where I was sitting in this exact same room. And, in 3 months, I won't be able to say that anymore, Debbie. We're moving to Raleigh. So it won't be this house anymore, which is kind of sad. But I was in this room and something came over me. My wife claims she prayed for me, but I just made a commitment to myself that I was more than what I was experiencing, that I could do better than what I was living. And I knew there was more to life than that mediocrity and that just disdain for all things at that point, basically. And I just made a commitment to myself to spend the rest of my life working towards the absolute best life possible. And I made a commitment to spend every second, minute, hour, day, week, month, and year, the rest of my life working towards my full potential. And long story short, I've had my setbacks along the way, but I have stuck to that commitment since that day in 2016. And things have been just much. I still have what I call burnout episodes, and I still cry. I still yell at my kids. I still get it on my wife's nerves. I still sometimes don't believe in myself. I still like all the different things, but I look at those mistakes and failures and difficulties, the adversity. I look at those as more or of growth opportunities than anything else. And I just keep going every single day.
Yeah. So you're still human,
Still human. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I was in tears earlier today. So, it's a part of things. It happens. But it's really, what the perspective are you going to have on all of that? Right? Is it going to push you forward? Or is it going to drag you into the next day and the next day and the next day until the weeks turn to months and those months turn into years? And you look back and you say, wow, like, how did I get here in terms of like my despair and things like that? So
yeah, it's a lot of self-talk. So how did you overcome this? What triggered you to say, other than the prayer from your wife, which I legitimize completely, how did you change it? What went through your mind, or what epiphany did you have that says, I have power to do something about this?
Wow. Joyce Meyer. Are you familiar with Joyce Meyer?
One of my very favorites. She says, life gives you a cactus. That doesn't mean you have to sit on it. Everything she ever said.
And for me, I think one morning, it was a late morning, and I remember looking at the TV on the wall, and it was an infomercial for her program called Battlefield of the Mind. I think that little navy blue book right there is probably that book. And this bookshelf was completely empty. So all the books that you see behind me, that's about 180 books there. The bookshelf was empty. Her book was one of the first. And she said something, and she was talking about something called stinking thinking. Stinking thinking is what she called it. And she said, where the mind goes, the man follows, right? And that really just got me thinking. And then from there, I discovered some people like, you probably know some of these people, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, they're motivational speakers, Les Brown. And they were really just talking about living the best life and personal development, which is something that just meant nothing to me back then. Personal development. I think just when you hear stuff like that, you will wake up because it's truth. And any human brain and ear that's competent enough to understand the words that I'm saying right now will hear it and catch it and probably hold on to that. And that's, those guys, the reason I want to be a speaker, I actually hate speaking. I hate, not hate maybe, but it's not something that I've said, I always want to be a speaker. And I love doing it. I get nervous, I get dry mouth, and I'm terrified sometimes, to get up on.
For 15 years, you still keep doing it. I mean, I still will get the same thing. Yeah.
I'm 100, over 150 talks in at this point. But the reason I do it is because guys like that, they recorded stuff and I got to listen to it, and it inspired me, empowered me, and motivated me to change my life. And it's the most noble thing that you can do for another person, is to understand some really powerful concepts and tools of life and want to share that with other people. And that's what they did. And when I heard Joyce's words, when I heard Jim Earl's words, and everybody else, all the probably hundreds of people at this point, Debbie, and then I'm gonna throw Betsy Charles in there. I'm gonna throw Marie Holloway-Chuck. Those were some of those first like veterinary people that I heard speaking about things. And I'm just like, where the hell has this stuff been?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, why didn't I get this in vet school? Why didn't I get this in undergrad? Why didn't I get this in church? Why didn't I get this in middle school? Why didn't I get this in elementary school?
Yeah.
But anyway, so it was that stuff that really helped me to turn the corner. I was like, whatever they're speaking, so that was the first thing, right? Those people. And then from there, each person is like a door. And if you walk through that person's door, there are just hundreds of other doors. And if you go through any of those doors, that leads to hundreds of other doors. And behind each door is just more awesomeness and amazingness. So if I pick up one of those books behind me and I open it up, those are people trying to help other people with the things that they discovered in life. And they didn't just get it from the sky. They got it from other people. Right. And so they say it came from this. I think one of the books, one of the early books, I was listening to Steve Harvey, the comedian, right? And the actor and all that stuff. And he talked about this book called The Secret. Oh, yeah. And so I read The Secret. Yeah. You got The Secret? Yeah. And so in The Secret, she talks about Wallace Wattles and the science of getting rich. And I read that book, and he's also the author of The Science of Being Great. I've been referencing The Science of Being Great in every single one of my talks since 2018, when I first started being a speaker. And I've read that book, The Science of Being Great, over 100 times at this point. And there are many parts where I can just recite to you just from memory. And so that little, branching of people and advice, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on. Wallace told me about what's the guy's name? It's one of the philosophers, Walden Pond. His name will come in a second. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, yeah.
And he's got really powerful things if you can understand it. But
yeah. Sometimes the language becomes obscure when it becomes very Edwardian. But there's really nothing new under the sun, like you say. And even if you look back, somebody asked me like the best business book, and I went, you want to know what one of the best business books I've ever read is the Bible. Because if you go into Proverbs and you start to learn, those are common lessons that we need to know in life. And, there's a great deal of ancient wisdom in a lot of these religious books, but then that's the root of a lot of things. And then going back to ancient Greek philosophy, I mean, we could go like way back to where this really does start. I for years, I've taught personality profiling, and realizing that the first reference to it was made in 444 BC, when it was called choleric, sanguine, melancholic, and phlegmatic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly is nothing new under the sun when it comes to humans
Exactly.
and the way that they
Yes.
think and react. But if you control your mind, you control the world. And
Oh
people
my
don't
gosh.
understand.
They don't
I'm
understand.
really excited. I'll tell you because I haven't even told anybody this, but for 2023, I will be the keynote speaker at all the Fetch conferences. Yeah.
Right
And I'm going
on.
to talk about something you're going to love. I'm going to talk about
Mm.
overcoming fear, and the
Wow.
fear being the root of so much of what is
Yeah.
wrong with us because
Whew.
we're afraid to have a challenging conversation with someone. We're afraid to put boundaries up. We're afraid of people who aren't like us because of our
Yeah.
biases, the way our cultural biases are raised. So if we can control the fear, if we control the dialogue in our head, there are no monsters under the bed, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the monsters
Yeah.
are fake. That we made them up in our
They are
head.
fake. They are
And when
fake.
we start to reveal that the monsters are fake and we get coping mechanisms to solve those, we open up a world of bravery,
Yes.
right?
And the ability to move forward
Do
if the fear
anything.
is there,
Yeah,
to go for it anyway.
exactly.
Do it anyway, right?
I laugh because
And
I quote Will Smith, but now I'm afraid to quote Will Smith. But
you're so
still,
funny. Yeah, you gotta be careful now, right?
yeah. But he has this line in a movie that I love, and it's from Independence Day, and it says, "Fear is not real, danger is real." So think
Yeah,
about that, right? So
for
fear is
sure.
something that we manifest in our heads, could or could not be, but danger is always real. Danger will harm us, but our brain will hijack us
Yeah,
to think that something that is a manifestation
right.
is
Right.
dangerous, but it's
That's
not.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah, me trying to do a brain surgery on a dog is
That's
dangerous,
dangerous.
right?
Mhm.
That's dangerous. But
Yeah.
me doing a difficult spay, maybe I'm just afraid,
Mhm.
right? But I have the competence and the know-how to get in there and to do it and to do it well
Yeah.
and to just overcome that.
And the more
And
you
if
do it, the
I
better you
it-
get. Right.
and the more you do it, the better you get. You may make some mistakes along the way,
Right.
but it's just a growth opportunity. It's just a learning experience. It's just a character building moment.
Mhm.
And when one of the things I talk about a lot in all my talks is perspective, right? It's like the first thing. Anyone who doesn't have a progressive, advancing perspective, they're probably going to struggle in vet med and life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? If things are just easy and things are just peachy for you all the time, then maybe you don't see that struggle. But
Mhm.
if you're in vet med, that's not going to be your experience where things are
Right.
just peachy all the time.
And
So you're
no.
going to struggle. You're going to struggle. So
Yep, exactly. Well, every failure is an opportunity to learn.
yeah,
And the honesty is that that's how people learn. They learn by failure. I mean, we start out crawling and falling down when we start
right.
to pull ourselves up to walk. So from the very get-go, we learn by making mistakes and going, that didn't work.
Yes.
And we learn the same way emotional intelligence. We gain emotional intelligence by making mistakes with communication with others and going, wow, that didn't really work out that well. So let's try something different the next time. The problem is when those folks who never learn from their mistakes keep repeating them and keep,
Yeah.
saying that, I mean, what is that? Expect
Insanity is
another
something, right?
outcome when you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's just not
Yeah.
going to happen. So let's talk a little bit about like your decision-making process moving forward into creating and taking all this knowledge that you had gained, that bookshelf full of stuff back there, and putting it into a usable uh, educational tool for others in our profession. How did you get there?
Yeah. So I think that, and you know this, but when you discover something as powerful as what we know about the mind and everything else, it's almost impossible to not want to share it with someone else or with as many people as you possibly can. It would almost be like having a cure to cancer and just sitting it on your kitchen shelf
Mhm.
and knowing that it's the cure to cancer and never showing it to anyone, right? It's almost a bad thing. And so the decision-making process for me was I knew that there was something that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to share that information and that knowledge. And I knew that practice, while I really enjoyed it full time, I couldn't do both 100%. And so I went down to part-time, and then I left practice for a little while. And I think that one of the things, if anybody's listening to this and they want to do something in life, they must understand that the universe is going to, right? And so this is where the decision-making process comes in, because I got a job offer to go be a chief of staff and down south for $135,000, which is, about twice what I was getting paid, before I left. And I had made the decision that I wanted to do the speaking thing and the coaching thing and all that jazz. And we were making like pennies, if that. When we first started, like I didn't even have money. I had $30,000 saved up. I remember talking to my dad, just being like, it's a pretty big job offer. I could really use the money. But I said no. I said no to that job offer, and because I had a purpose, and I really wanted to pursue this purpose and just to see what it was going to look like if I gave it everything that I had. And so I did just that. I gave everything that I had. And Debbie, let me tell you, it didn't work. So I blew through the $30,000 I had saved up just from bills, like month to month, with no like income. Had no idea how to start a business. I had no idea about entrepreneurship. I'm reading these books like Think and Grow Rich and The Science of Getting Rich and The Science of Being Great and like all these other books. And I'm reading sales books, and I have a mentor 2 hours away. I would drive on Sunday mornings. And he's this big business guy, and he's a philanthropist, and he would mentor people in business for free. And I would go there and I would learn stuff, and I would try, and I would get a little bit of success here or there, like a speaking engagement or two. But it wasn't happening fast enough, basically. Right. And struggles here on the family, things like that. My wife also, she's a veterinarian, and she left her job as chief of staff of a veterinary hospital to start her mobile practice. So now here two brand new entrepreneurs,
oh, wow.
two broke people. And I ran out of money. And this is something people like, this is like a few years ago. I ran out of money, and it's time. I have 2 daughters, right? It's time to pay my babysitter, and I literally have no money to do it. And so I remember just gathering some of the like electronics that I had in the house, and I had like a dumbbell set, and I loaded them all up in the car. I took them to the pawn shop, and I got as much as I could for that. And it was enough to sort of get through that moment. I was really living from like moment to moment for a while. And, Renee was kind of in this with me. We had both just taken that leap. And I remember, I think one of the hardest times was when I didn't have anything I could sell. Like I didn't have anything I could sell like ethically. Right. And so I remember sitting at my daughter's dance class in the car. My wife, she's in the driver's seat. I'm sitting in the passenger seat. And I told my wife, I'm going to have to call my mom and ask her for some money. And as a doctor, that was probably one of the most difficult. I don't like asking for financial help. I really don't. And dialing that number, I can just remember like dialing that was just the most painful thing. But I did it. And of course, she's my mom, like, she understood. And I think she was proud of all that I had done thus far. And so she had no problem doing that. And it was enough to get me to the next moment. And I don't even know why I'm talking about that. Like, what are we talking about?
But well, we were talking about like how you move forward. I mean, how do you make a decision to, stop and not take $130,000 job and pursue you get motivated and, because, well, I mean, I started my business in the middle of the Great Recession after I got laid off because I was like the most expensive lay employee in the practice.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And I thought, I'll have a job in no time. I know everybody in my whole area, and nobody was hiring because it was 2008 and it was 2008, the recession. So
Wow.
I just started my business, and my husband said, hey, you've always wanted to do this and you've been doing it on the part-time anyway. Why don't you
Yeah.
just do it? And I
Just
went,
do it.
really? He said, yeah. And I went, all right.
Yeah.
So I did it. So I actually managed to do it because I had unemployment and Cobra. And otherwise, and time, that's the other thing is you have to have time to
Yeah. So,
invest in creating, a product, which is
whew, my
you,
gosh.
the
Yeah.
speaker, the education, the PowerPoints, it takes a long time to build a PowerPoint.
And the big thing for us was, you know, we had to learn sales. We had to learn sales and marketing, and sales. It can sound sleazy if you think about like the greasy used car salesman or the person selling snake oil or vacuum cleaners. But selling, I believe that in like 10 years, I want to teach sales to veterinary professionals, because it's really the ability to articulate value well enough to get people to make good decisions.
Yeah.
And if you have a product or a service that is meaningful and adds value to people's lives, like veterinary care and preventatives and surgeries and treatment plans and things like that, then you can really make a big difference. And it's through, I mean, if you're going to be doing well-being, you have a business and well-being, you better learn how to sell, because like we have to learn how to articulate that value to a practice manager or to an owner or to whoever it is, a meeting planner. You've got to know how to do that. And you have to believe in yourself, in your product, in your purpose, in your intention, in your vision, and the possibility of a better profession so much that you're willing to get uncomfortable. And one of the things I learned from the Science of Getting Rich, right, that I got from The Secret, that I got from Steve Harvey, that I got from, just listening to motivation through YouTube University. I call it YouTube University because it's like free education.
Free
unlimited,
education, exactly, yeah.
Unlimited. Wallace Waddle says in The Science of Getting Rich, you should always give more in use value than you're asking for in cash value. And if you're doing that, you can never do anyone any wrong. And so even with Get Motivated University and our talks, we're always looking to give more in use value than we're taking away from people in cash value, so that way we can sleep well at night and know that we are doing more good than harm from and getting money from people and things like that. So,
well, I've taught sales quietly and under the radar to veterinarians for many years, because if you tell them you're teaching them sales, they will keel over like those goats, right?
Right. Yeah, so exactly.
You have to kind of teach it under the radar. But when you look at being a salesperson, what you're doing is providing information about a product or a service that person needs, but they don't know they need it. Because they don't know medicine. They don't know about their animal. And so we do know that we have that knowledge. So we're really an educator, we're a teacher, and we're providing them education about a service that they need. And once they realize they need it, because that's the education part, then they readily accept it. And I'm going to send you a book. It's called Sandler Rules. And a friend of mine, Joel Kazmarek, who was the national sales trainer for the Sandler sales training company, gave it to me one day. We went to lunch together and he gave it to me because I've always been interested in taking sales classes, and because it is different. It's not something we are taught in our profession at all. And realizing that people buy on emotion, and that there is no practicality to it. So I love teaching people this, because we're talking about, I buy things practically, even buying a house. So you just bought a house, right? So you buy this house and you go, oh, this house is in a good school district. This house will go up in value. This house is in a good neighborhood. But that's not why you bought the house.
That's how you justify it.
You justify it that way. So you bought the house because you walked in and it gave you a feeling.
Yeah.
It says, ooh, I could do this here. I could have a party. I can lean back here. I can put my headset on. I can relax. I'm going to float around in this giant tub with some candles and a glass of wine. All this stuff, that's why the realtors say, stage your house, take all your personal pictures down, put candles floating in the tub,
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
bread, right?
Yeah.
Because it's this illusion. My
Right.
favorite example to give is tattoos,
Mm,
because if you think about a tattoo, you are paying somebody thousands and hundreds of dollars, depending on how many you have, to stab you multiple times with a needle. Now, that's not logical, right?
no.
Here,
No.
stab me. It's painful, and people take, it takes weeks to get over this stuff. So it is completely an emotional buy because of
Yes.
whatever it is that they want tattooed on themselves. So if you look at life like that, how am I going to engage that person's emotions, which the Sandler rule says that we have the child and then we have the parent, and the child in us says, I want. The next level up is like the adult, and the adult says, I deserve, and the parent gives permission. So it's very
Mm,
interesting. You'll love the book.
yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Give you
That
the title.
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah.
I love. I really do love sales because I believe it's the one of the main character traits by which we will get to a veterinary profession that is harmonious. I
Yes.
really do
Mhm.
believe we can do that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We need to understand communication. You figure we have a lot of
Yeah.
people in our profession that go into the profession because they like animals better than people. And then we find out that it's a people profession that actually sells animal services as its product.
Mm,
So we have to change the mindset, and we have
right.
to we talk a lot about in the benefit of the animal,
Right.
but what we have to talk about is the benefit to the owner in additional longevity of the animal, or the animal doesn't keep them awake at night, scooting its rear across their comforter, because it's
Eh,
anal
eh,
glands, or it's not chewing
I
its feet. Yeah.
exactly. I think there's a really good book called Copywriting Secrets. So not like copyright, like the copyright like a logo or a business name or something like that, or a book, but copywriting as in like WRIT, and that's like the sales and the marketing, the wording that you use
Mhm.
in an advertisement and things like that. And he talks about feature, benefit, and meaning. I just gave a talk in Indiana, Indianapolis or Indiana, about negotiation. And I talked about feature, benefit, and meaning. And so I'm thinking that the audience would at least be familiar with the term features and benefits, right? And the meaning would be like the big, like, okay,
Yeah.
you didn't know about the meaning. When you add the meaning, you'll be able to get more heartworm prevention, get more treatments and surgeries that the pets need. You'll be able to help more pets and owners this way. And I said, so raise your hand if you know about feature and benefit. I remember I turned around and looked at Renee and I was like,
Oh,
because in high school, I was kind of like a business and marketing
uh-huh.
like focused student.
Yeah.
And I learned that in like the 10th grade. They don't know feature versus benefit.
Yeah.
Whew. I
I
said,
know.
I said, a lot of dogs ain't getting what they need because of
Exactly
this. You
right.
know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And so
Yeah.
anyway, we're getting
We will.
sidetracked.
I told
Oh,
you
yeah,
we would. I warned you
yeah.
before
It's
we
it's
started with.
cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's all good. Yes, but
So now I'm curious to ask you this. Looking back over, it's been 2013, and you come out and here you are, and VMX speaker. Tell me what you thought your biggest career mistake was.
I don't, I don't operate in the land or realm of mistakes, right? As we kind of already talked about, but I think that the biggest move, and it's so hard to say this because the only way to really grow into the person that you're supposed to be is to do some stupid stuff and then work back through it, right? And so I think that leaving a job to go do something else that doesn't make money was the biggest thing, because there have been those moments, and it can be very stressful. And I know it's been hard and stressful on my wife, on me at times. But when I look at where I'm at today, like, it's just, I can't hardly call that a mistake, Debbie. It allows me to be here with you.
You kind of look like everything you go through gets you to where you are.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
would you be the same person? And my husband, he every now and then will look back and go, man, when you lost your job, that was really hard. And I said, no, yeah, it was, but I don't have any resentment against it, because I learned stuff that I needed to know while I was there. And if I did not learn those things, I wouldn't be as good at my work as I am now, because I would not have had that opportunity to work in a mixed animal practice, to learn emergency and specialty care, to manage the
Absolutely.
shelter for the county. I mean,
You
you're
know what I'm
talking
saying?
about a wide variety of
Yeah.
management skills that I picked up in 3 years period of time that I wouldn't have had before, because I really kind of
Mm.
worked in a practice that was
Yes.
AHA accredited, bells and whistles, clients who just handed you
Yeah.
money. But we built it that way. It was
Right.
intentional. And you're talking about
Right.
branding. This was a branded practice. And
Mm-hmm.
so everything gives you the experience you need to be successful later on. If you look back on it,
Right.
you go, no, I
Right.
learned a lot of stuff there. It was
Right.
actually okay. And it was meant to be. I was meant to be there. I was meant to lose my job because it pushed me out of the nest. And if I thought, if I was going to look at a career mistake that I made, it was not starting as a consultant sooner. So good for
Ooh.
you that
Yeah.
you started
Yeah.
sooner. Yeah.
Right. 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 Now I've made some like clinical decision mistakes that I regret. Like once there was this 8-year-old fat lab, and it was there for a spay. And normally I'm just like, I'm not doing that, right? And so we, pre-meds, anesthesia, blood work, everything was cool. Physical exam panned out. And right before I made my eventual midline incision, my skin incision, I was thinking to myself, don't do it. Like, just do something else. And so I cut it open. And then as soon as I get to the linea, the fat just like,
You're just like,
the fat just,
go so
the
fast.
fat's out. And I'm just like, I look at my tech and I'm like, would it be okay if I just like closed it back up and just stopped here? Like we're not in too deep yet. So I kept on going. I kept on going, and I'm trying to tie the thing off, and I'm tying the pedicle off, and it starts shredding, and so it was already tight, and then I had to go down deeper, and I was just like so many obscenities at that point. But
Yeah.
the dog was fine, and it was just, I was like, I will never
did it.
get myself in an abdomen like this ever again.
Practice owner, my first practice owner, new graduates comes out and they want to make this little tiny, fancy incision. And then they get in trouble. Like they drop the pedicle and go, oh, what am I going to do? He went, open the damn dog up, cut bigger so you can see.
See, my wife would have loved a fat, in heat, spay, gastropexy, fatty, all types of things. I'm just like, what is wrong with you? You're sick,
No.
But she would not want to get on the stage in front of 10 people, less yet 100.
Everybody picks the poison.
That's right.
Yeah. So now I want to ask you this question, because I kind of like to shine a light on this. As far as career development goes, what advantage did networking have in growing your business and getting you to where you are today?
I have been blessed to know the power of networking since I was in undergrad. And sometimes I feel that I was kind of like a chosen person where I've worked really hard. I'm not going to take anything away from myself. But people introducing me to people and just doing things like that. And when I think back to myself, like, why did they do that for me? Like, what, they didn't have to do that, and the biggest thing that networking does to me, when I think about the role that it's played in GetMotiveted's development and my development, is that it proves to me that it's possible. It gives me belief in myself and in other people, that if I can meet and network with the level of people that I've met and networked with, that this young man out of a small town, my mom and dad, either when she was pregnant with me or just before I was born, they lived in the projects, in this little small, tiny house. And just before I was born, a guy like kicked the door in while my mom was there by herself. And, she's told me the story, and she said she saw him like reaching in and unlocking the door and everything like that. And she was there. And so she runs underneath my dad's bed and she gets a shotgun, goes. And when the guy comes through the door, she's aiming the shotgun at him.
Wow.
And she said that she told him that if you take another step, I'm going to shoot. And I always hope that she said something really cool, like, I'm going to blow your effing head off or something like that,
Yeah.
Be much more of a cool story.
Yeah.
I
Go
might have to
mom.
add that in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But anyway, the guy was like, don't shoot, ma'am, don't shoot. And then he left. My mom had no idea how to shoot the gun. The safety was on.
Oh
Like she
Lord.
wasn't going to do anything
Yeah.
if like actually tried her.
Yeah.
And so to think that, when I was a kid, we had a car called the Ratmobile, and I'll let you use your imagination as the why they called it the Ratmobile. But to think that me coming from that and being able to, from people like you and, Andy Rourke and Betsy Charles and Janet Donlin of AVMA and Dan Espinal, it's like all the people that I've had the opportunity and the pleasure, and I could name people just for the next hour of really awesome and amazing people, to even the people on the ground who may not have these big, big prestigious titles and things like that. Like just the everyday vet assistant, technician, receptionist, like all the people I've had the opportunity to meet, that networking has shown me and given me a belief that anybody can reach anybody and basically accomplish and choose anything, because I'm just me, like, and I have the opportunity to do that. And from a more like technical perspective, people have connections, and it for me, it's less about the connections people have, and it's more about the inspiration that I get from just seeing what they've done and things like that. So. But it plays a huge role. I definitely recommend people to just go places, fly yourself to the conferences. If you didn't get a special invitation, just show up there. And I've done that before and ended up at a table with Janet Donlin before she was the CEO of the AVMA.
It's great. Yeah.
And I remember her, I always tell this story, like a reason I believe in people is because people have always believed in me. But I remember, like, I didn't know anybody at this. It was at the Veterinary Fix the Debt Summit or something like that in Michigan or Wisconsin, somewhere cold and up north. And I'm sitting at this table. She's like, "Hey, who are you?" I'm just like, "Quincy, and I work with Banfield, And she said, "Oh, do you know Dan Asia?" I'm like, "Who?" And she's like, "Dan Asia. You've got to meet Dan Asia." I was like, okay. And she stands up, she looks around the room, said, "There he is." She grabs me by the hand and walks me all the way across the room and said, "Dan Asia, this is Dr. Quincy Hawley." And it was kind of awkward because I'm like, I don't even like, okay, and of course he was the chief veterinary or medical officer for Banfield back in that day, like a C-level leader for one of the largest veterinary companies out there. And I'm just like, wow, like somebody who didn't even know me, just met me, introduced me to someone, and do it like she's known me her entire life. And so when I think about allyship and I think about networking and being a ladder for other people, I always think back to moments like that. And so, but I got to make some connections while I was there. But the point is, I flew myself there. Like there was just I don't even know why I was going. I think I go into the veterinary leadership conference the year before as like one of their emerging leaders. And I got an email about the Fix the Debt Summit. So I just took some days off of work and I went up there just to see what was going on, I guess, and yeah,
it all works out. You just never know. And
right.
I'm encouraging you to become a Vet Partners member because I just want you in the association, honestly. But I think you would enjoy that networking there and meeting the people. It's an amazingly generous profession, I think. Somebody asked me one day, said, veterinary consultants are very collaborative with each other. There's not a lot of backbiting and talking nasty about each other. I went, no, because we have more work to do than we ever could possibly accomplish. So there's plenty of, we don't look at this as a scarcity mentality. We look at there's an abundance and we all need, there's work for us all to do and we all need to share in that work. So it's having networks and people that you can call and say, oh, so I know somebody's got this program and this is what you need to do. And just like you said, like Janet did, just take you by the hand and go, you need to meet this person.
Right.
That's one of my very favorite things to do. I love to be matchmaker. And so I like to, I'm very curious about people. I love to know what they do and how they got there and how they accomplish things in life. And so that's why I love this podcast so much, because I get to talk to great people like you. And it's been great. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely.
So, all right, here's the big question. What advice would you give someone facing a big career decision or a big life decision?
Facing a big career or life decision. I actually wrote something down earlier today, and I don't know if it'll be relevant or not, but I'm going to look at it really quickly. It's this. Wherever there's adversity, there must be by default opportunity. And sometimes that opportunity, or sometimes the adversity can be physical, sometimes it can be mental. And in vet med especially, it's going to be both. And I would love to see the mental adversity be converted to opportunity, because I don't think the profession is going to change a ton in terms of like the circumstances and the number of challenges, because I think it's just the nature of the profession to have, especially as we promote further the human animal bond.
Yeah.
I think that the clients are probably, if we're doing that, going to become even more demanding, because now it's like my child, right?
Yeah, we are pediatricians and we don't know it.
You know what I'm saying? And so, anyway, it doesn't have to be, turmoil doesn't have to be exact experience as a veterinary professional, and even as a human being, right? Like you could leave vet med and life's going to give you a hard time. Life's going to give you challenges. And to really just think about how you can always find opportunity in chaos, get better instead of bitter from challenges, and always get something from the tough moments that are going to happen, right? Like they're going, when Jesus said like the poor is always going to be among you, I think what he really meant was that challenges are always going to be among you, and difficult people and difficult things and difficult times will always present themselves. And if you can find the advantages and the disadvantages and realize that life's always happening for you and not like to you to make your life worse, then that just makes all the difference in the world, because your worst days can also become your best days. And I think that's something really powerful that I would pass off to other people.
When my niece got married and I was saying something at her reception, I said, you'll go through life and you will have valleys and you will have peaks, and they'll go through times when you're married to each other that you can't stand each other. I've been married 43 years, so I totally get this. But if you don't have the valleys, you can never appreciate the mountaintop. Yeah. So you've got to go through the rough times to when you're standing on that hill and you look back and you go, this is good. This is really good. Because if it's just good all the time,
right,
you have no comparison, right? You
that's right.
Think it's just normal, but that's not normal. You need to step back and appreciate and just spend a moment kind of in gratitude that's where you are at that time.
Yes.
And you can't always anticipate that everything is going to be, rainbows and unicorns. There's got to be normal. And it's just like with our cortisol levels, right? You can't always be here and you can't always be here. You got to be here most of the time. And then you appreciate this and you go, oh, I'll get through that, the ups and the downs. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Alan Watts compares it to like a wave. He says life's like a wave. You can't have a wave that's all crest and no trough, and you can't have a wave that's all a trough and no crest, right? That the two go together. Mm-hmm. And if you can realize that, then you can turn a trough into a crest that much quicker, because you understand the game and what's really going on here.
Just got to ride the wave, right?
Yeah, just ride the wave. And I think that even most people fully appreciating the crest. And so like there are lots of crests that happen in veterinary medicine on the day-to-day, but I believe that it's really easy to let that one client make you think the entire day has been a tough day, when really in actuality it hasn't been. It's been this much positive and this much negative, you know what I mean? And this much negative, and the negative just, it stings so much more sometimes. And I get that. Right.
Well, it's human nature.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's our limbic brain, self-protective nature, to look at the negative and run from danger, run from fear. But instead, and if you think about it, we have a community of diagnosticians. So if we use the diagnostic part of your mind and you go, okay, let me really diagnose the situation. What was this? This is not about me. Most of the time, these negative situations are really not about you. They're about whatever was going on with the client.
Yeah.
And then you can't get sucked into their drama. So if you're diagnosing it and you're stepping back and you're being that, you're taking that training that you've got to say, let's work the problem, right? Work the problem. Don't get sucked in emotionally, because your emotions will take you down some kind of a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Control your mind, right? Control your mind, control your world. So Quincy, any do you have a favorite book, secret talent, something people would be surprised to know about you?
Favorite book, definitely Science of Being Great. And my favorite quote from that book is that man is formed for growth, and he is under the necessity for growing. It is essential to his happiness that he should continuously advance in life. Life without progress becomes unendurable, and the person who ceases from growth must either become imbecile or insane. The greater and more harmonious and well-rounded his growth, the happier man will be. So that's definitely my favorite quote. Awesome. From that book, The Science of Being Great. You can get it for about $3. It's crazy. And I can juggle. I don't have any tennis balls on me right now, but I do have some marbles right here. So let me take these off.
Yeah, don't get caught up in your court.
If I fail, it's okay.
Okay.
I've never done it with something this small. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh. I did it. Awesome. I didn't drop a single one. So
that's awesome. Oh man.
I've been playing tennis since I was 7, and you find yourself with 3 balls in your hands a lot. So
okay. All right. There you go. All right. Well, gosh, you know what? I think we could probably talk about this stuff forever. And I really appreciate your time, but we've actually pushed the envelope of the hour. So thank you very much for staying with me a little bit longer. But I think that people definitely need to come and listen to you speak. They need to get involved and get motivated. They need to start educating themselves about the stuff that we've been talking about. Because if you don't take control of your life, you don't take the horse's reins, you're going to live this runaway life that's miserable. And you do have the power to fix it. You just got to learn the skills, just like you learn any other skill in life. Learning how to work your brain, making it behave is the key to feeling good most days and having a successful life. So thank you
I love it
for being with me.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure being here, and thank you so much for what you're doing, helping individuals and veterinary professionals to learn this mindset stuff and the personal development stuff and the sales and everything else. It's really really powerful.
Well, we all try. You know, we're just going to keep chipping away on the iceberg until we are not the Titanic anymore, right? Thank you very much again, Quincy. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of The Bend. Dr. Hawley will's information will be in the show notes, and how to get in touch with him and how to link to Get Motivated, so you can get motivated. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.